We've been together slightly over 2 years, and since the day we met, we have not gone more than a week without each other. We've effortlessly fit into each other's schedules. This year, he graduated and got a job at a Big Four, and it's been awesome. It was going very well until I found out his latest project is with a well-known hotel chain, and as a consequence, he'll be traveling. We both spent this weekend on trips with our friends, and we got back last night, him later than I. So he woke me up saying he has some news and told me about his new contract and how he's going tomorrow to one of the hotels 3 to 4 hours away in another city for the next 10 days. He'll be back for 3 to 4 days, and then God knows where he will be going for the next month, somewhere even farther and for even longer. I am very happy for him, as this level of work at this age is a great achievement. But I don't know, maybe I was half asleep when he told me, or maybe I wasn't thinking straight. I just lost it. I felt sad. Like, I don't know, I went into my own head. I've had a very erratic life, and my partner has been the only stable thing I've had going on. Knowing that I get to come home to him, see him, and wake up with him relieves a lot of anxiety that life usually brings to a medical student such as myself. I felt like my stability was being taken away, and I started crying. I don't know if I knew before I would have prepared, but he just sprung it on me. Initially, he told me he declined as he doesn't want to be away from me and his family, but then his dad, who lives overseas alone and has left his wife, children, and mother here, advised him to take it. I don't get the best vibes from his dad, so we have a distant relationship as he visits only once every 2 to 3 months. And every time his dad is around, his behavior changes. He acts selfishly. Not that anything is wrong with that, one must focus on themselves, but it's a big contrast from how he behaves otherwise. So I have a lot of mixed emotions about this. I am feeling contempt for his dad. I also feel very left out, as I always factor in my partner when I have to make big life decisions. I'm not saying I've had to compromise substantially to include him, but I do things while keeping him in mind. This situation also makes me feel as though I am the only one who holds their partner in such high regard, like he didn't even think. Now for an update. His current project is also a very big name company audit. However, he doesn't like his supervisor, so he decided to ask to be put on the other project that involves a lot of traveling. I am trying to be happy, but every time I have a second to breathe, it hits me that he's going tomorrow, and I don't know how it is going to go. I've realized I have some sort of codependency issue and separation anxiety, so I don't know how I will manage my day-to-day living. I am looking for advice on how to approach the situation with my partner and personally without losing my mind. Now, for a few comments before the update. Well, actually, this post didn't have any comments. Now, for the update. It's been 3 days since my partner left for that work project, and I'm still trying to figure out how to deal with this sudden change in my routine. Seriously, I don't know how people do long-distance relationships and all that. On the bright side, I had dinner with my parents the other night, which was a decent distraction from my partner's absence. You know how it is. Family dinners can be super boring, but at least they keep my mind off things for a bit. So, during dinner, my mom casually asked how my partner was doing. Like, does she even know he just left? I mean, I get it, she loves him, but come on, give me a break. I mentioned the whole exciting job opportunity thing, but then I felt this twinge of something when I realized we hadn't even spoken since he left. Awkward, right? Then my sister jumps in and mentions how she saw my partner's posts on social media about his travel experiences. I felt this mix of annoyance and curiosity because she was seeing all these cool updates while I was over here left in the dark. Like, why is my sister getting all the info and I'm just sitting here like a sad potato? Anyway, I decided to take matters into my own hands and went scrolling through my partner's social media for more info. I stumbled upon these photos of a hotel lobby that looked super luxurious, tagged with his location. I mean, it looked amazing, but it also made me miss him even more. So I texted him asking how the project was going and if he was settling in all right. He replied with this short message saying he was busy and looking forward to the weekend. Like, seriously? That's all I get? I couldn't take it anymore and called my best friend to vent about my partner's lack of updates. She suggested planning a surprise visit after he finishes the project, which I thought was a great idea. I started looking into flights and felt a little excitement creeping in. But then I found out that my partner's dad was in town for a few days to visit. Of course, that had to happen, right? The next day, my mom invited me to a family barbecue and casually mentioned that my partner's dad would be there. Great, just what I needed. At the barbecue, the atmosphere was so awkward, especially when I overheard my partner's dad bragging about his son's success. Like, chill out, dude, he's my partner too. I kept my distance and tried to blend into the family chatter while listening in on their conversations. Then my partner's dad made this comment about how travel opportunities are the key to success. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. My younger sister, sensing the tension, tried to lighten the mood by asking about my plans. I just shrugged off the question and avoided the topic of my partner because I didn't want to make things worse. Later on, I saw my partner's dad showing off pictures from his recent trip with my partner. I couldn't help myself. I had to confront him about it. So I asked if my partner was enjoying the work or just playing tourist. He responded all dismissively, telling me I should be more supportive of my partner's career. Seriously? That night, my partner finally called me, but he seemed so distracted. I asked him about the hotel and the trip, but he quickly changed the topic to work. I could tell he was avoiding something, and honestly, it made me more determined to go through with that surprise visit. I needed to reconnect with him and address all these concerns lingering in my head. Before booking the flight, I called my partner's best friend to see if he had noticed any changes in my partner's behavior. Unfortunately, he confirmed that my partner had been acting distant lately, which made me even more worried. So, I went ahead and booked a flight for the weekend. I felt this mix of anticipation and anxiety. I just want to figure out what's going on with my partner and hopefully address the big issue. As the weekend approached, I got a message from my partner asking if we could talk. During the call, he mentioned some challenges at work and how much pressure he was getting from his dad. Yeah, that part didn't surprise me at all. It's always about his dad's expectations, isn't it? Now I'm just preparing for this surprise visit, hoping everything will work out. Edit. I have received messages asking why I didn't ask my partner about his dad visiting. I didn't want to put him on the spot, since he was already feeling pressured. I also didn't want to hear him say that his dad's presence was not a big deal. Yes, I know that avoiding these topics isn't the best approach, but I just want to enjoy our time together without any added stress. The surprise visit is just a few days away, and I'm feeling nervous yet hopeful. Am I the idiot for calling out my dad and stepmom's manipulative therapy tactics? I was talking to my sister, who is 22 years old, about how I've been feeling. My dad still hasn't reached out to me, and after what happened, I was extremely suicidal and was almost hospitalized at the recommendation of my therapist, but I didn't go through with it for financial reasons. I told my sister all of this, and she said that they're on a waiting list for family therapy. She said that they're all going to start together initially, and I will be brought in at a later time. This doesn't make any sense to me. My dad and stepmom have had conversations with my siblings, and they seem to be taking the steps towards healing their relationships with them, but I wasn't given the same opportunity. They haven't even spoken to me or told me that they would like me to come to therapy with them at some point. What I'm afraid of is that my dad and stepmom will have the chance to lay out all the groundwork and create a good relationship with the therapist, so that when I come in after not speaking to them for months, almost committing unalived over what they did, and having no reconciliation or closure, I'm going to obviously be very emotional and angry. I'm worried they will use this against me in front of the therapist and push the narrative of we just want to heal and move on as a family, but this crazy woman won't let go of the past? See how crazy she is? My dad and stepmom are extremely manipulative and controlling people, and I believe they're only starting family therapy as a way to get the therapist on their side so they can give off the illusion that they've done nothing wrong and that we all need to get over it. I'm worried that if I then get frustrated and stop going, they'll be able to push a sob story, We tried to do therapy with you. We tried to heal our relationship, but you gave up and stopped going. It's like, I can't win. I genuinely don't understand how they expect me to do family therapy without them trying to talk things out with me first, or at least apologize for what they did. I don't know why it seems necessary to do this in front of all of my siblings and a therapist. It really seems like some ploy to make me look crazy in front of everyone. Maybe I'm just paranoid. I don't know, but I don't trust them. Does anyone have any advice on how to handle the situation and move forward? I'm really conflicted about what I should do. To add, I made a post a couple of months ago about how my dad and stepmom cut me off after I tried confronting my dad about things that were bothering me regarding how he and my stepmom treated me and my siblings over the years. If you want additional context, the post is in my history. In summary, my family is beginning therapy without me, and I will apparently be brought in at a later time. My dad and stepmom cut me off a couple of months ago and haven't spoken to me since because I tried confronting them about how they treated me and my siblings. I'm worried my dad and stepmom are doing this to create a good relationship with the therapist and lay down the groundwork so that when I come in, my words will hold no credibility and I'll look crazy and unstable because I'm angry and emotional due to not receiving any closure or reconciliation. Does anyone have any advice on how to handle the situation and move forward? I'm really conflicted about what I should do. If you need additional context, check post history. Now, for a few comments before the update. Well, actually, this post didn't have any comments. Now for the update. I'm not sure how to put this lightly, but my family therapy sessions have been a complete disaster. If you thought the first part of this saga was dramatic, then get ready, because this update is crazy. So, it's been a month since I last posted about my family's therapy sessions. Yeah, the ones I was left out of, but we'll get to that. I found out that my fam had their first session last week. You know, the one where I was supposed to air all my childhood grievances and finally get some validation? Yeah, that didn't happen. I overheard my dad and his wife talking about how the therapist praised them for their openness. Like, can you believe the nerve? They were like two proud peacocks strutting around, soaking up the therapist's compliments. My sister Kate filled me in on how the session went. Apparently, my dad shared some emotional stories about his childhood. How sweet. I only wish he had that same emotional depth when it came to our relationship. Anyway, I decided to suck it up and attend a family dinner at my parents' house last weekend. It was my dad's birthday, and apparently everyone was invited, including me. Shocking, right? When I got there, the atmosphere was super awkward. I tried to engage with everyone, but it felt like pulling teeth. My stepmom wouldn't stop going on about how proud she was of the family's progress in therapy. I wanted to throw my plate at the wall. My dad was not much better. He kept bragging about how he was learning to be a better parent, which was rich coming from him. In a moment of frustration, I brought up a past incident where he completely dismissed my feelings. You know, the kind of stuff that therapy is supposed to help with? My stepmom shot me a glare that could unalive. The tension in the room shifted in an instant. Dad's tone turned defensive, insisting that he was doing his best. Kate tried to mediate by changing the topic, but I felt like I needed to stand my ground. My comments were dismissed again. He said I was being overly sensitive. At that point, his wife chimed in, claiming that I was making everything about myself. I snapped back, accusing her of manipulating the situation to maintain control. All that therapy, and she still hasn't learned to read the room. The dinner quickly devolved into chaos. Voices were raised, and food was left untouched. Kate looked like she was about to jump out of her skin, and Jake and Rachel were exchanging worried glances. I stood up and declared that I was tired of being the scapegoat. I grabbed my coat and stormed out, vowing to not return until I was treated with respect. Yeah, real mature, I know. But honestly, what else could I do in that situation? On the way home, I made a plan to turn the tables on my family. I reached out to a family friend who had witnessed years of the family dynamics. The friend agreed to write a letter detailing their observations and experiences. I planned to send this letter to the therapist before the next family session. Like if my family was going to manipulate the situation, then I was going to do the same. The friend sent the letter, and I anxiously awaited a response. The therapist contacted me, asking to meet before the next family session. We set the meeting at a coffee shop because, therapy happens in cozy cafes, right? I laid everything out, and the therapist listened intently as I shared my side of the story. After the meeting, the therapist suggested a new approach for the upcoming family session. She would present both sides to the family, highlighting the need for open communication. I was like, finally, some actual therapy. When the session happened, the therapist read excerpts from the letter, and oh boy, the look on my family's faces was priceless. My dad and stepmom looked defensive as hell, while Kate and Jake remained silent, absorbing the words. My stepmom tried to deflect blame, but the therapist cut her off. It was so satisfying to watch. After the session, my family left in silence, the air thick with unresolved issues. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm not holding my breath. This family is a hot mess, and therapy or not, I don't see it changing anytime soon. To answer a few questions, my sister is the only family member who has been supportive. She has been my confidant through all of this. The family friend I mentioned is an old family friend who was very close to us as kids. They know our family dynamics very well. Am I the idiot for cutting off my financially irresponsible mother after she refused help and chose takeout over groceries? I grew up very poor, but with some good role models. My mom's parents and sister are well off and always made sure I had what I needed. Now that I am an adult, I'm doing well for myself. I have a good job, a steady living situation, and I am in a great relationship. My mother is on welfare and has a history of just not being very responsible with that. She receives $1,200 a month, and her rent is $200, Section 8, and every month she is out of money by the first week. This month, she let me know on the 3rd that she spent everything and had no money for food. I had her send me her bank statement to rule out drug use, and I spent money on groceries for her. She refuses to eat basics like chicken and rice, and what I spent isn't going to last her because she won't let me buy her affordable food that lasts. My mom and I both have Crohn's disease. Mine is admittedly worse. I've had 13 surgeries and had a colostomy bag at one point. She hasn't had any of that, but is still sick. She refuses to go to the doctor and is about 110 pounds. This week, she ended up in the hospital for a few days because her electrolytes and vitamins were life-threateningly low. They wanted to do a colonoscopy, and she got mad. They wouldn't give her painkillers for a headache and stormed out of the hospital. My grandma had to pick her up because I wouldn't pick her up and contribute to that. Fast forward to now, her air conditioning is out, and her apartment complex is being difficult with fixing it. Her apartment is 91 degrees, and she asked me if I could buy her an air conditioning unit because she's super hot and sweating all the electrolytes they just gave her. The thing is, I'm just fed up with having to pick up the slack for her being irresponsible. She had enough money to buy an air conditioning unit at the beginning of the month and chose to spend it on DoorDash, Dollar Tree, Goodwill, and payday loans instead. I've bailed her out a lot, and I'm just starting to feel drained. I can't care for her more than she cares for herself. I have offered to Uber her to my house. I'm currently out of town, and let her stay there until Monday, and then we can get with the leasing office again. She has absolutely refused this and won't budge. She then told me she hopes she dies from heat stroke in the house. I just don't know what to do anymore and was wanting some advice if anybody had any. Now for a few comments before the update. Well, actually, this post didn't have any comments. Now for the update. A few days after my last post, my mom called saying she felt faint and needed help. I had to drop everything and rushed over to her apartment. It was still just as hot as ever. When I walked in, she was sitting on the floor surrounded by a ton of empty takeout containers. Right then and there, I knew all those groceries I bought her, the basics that were supposed to last her for weeks, were just sitting there untouched. She had already blown through her money on takeout again. I helped her up and offered to take her to the hospital, but she refused. Insisted she would be fine, said she just needed to rest. I made her a quick meal from the groceries and tried to get her to eat, but she pushed the plate away. She said she was waiting for a loan to come through, which would help her buy a new air conditioning unit. A week passed and the loan still hadn't appeared, leaving the apartment super hot. I got a text from my sister, who had been visiting our mom, and she was really worried about her health. My sister mentioned seeing her in a similar state, surrounded by clutter and takeout containers. I decided to check in on her again. When I arrived at the apartment, she was lying on the couch, sweaty and messy. There was a stack of unopened bills on the coffee table. She claimed she was waiting for money from a friend who promised to help her out. I offered to help pay for a temporary air conditioning unit, but she refused, saying she could manage. She then revealed that she had borrowed money from a loan shark to cover her expenses, and that freaked me out. During a family dinner, I confronted her about her spending habits in front of other family members. She became defensive, talking about how hard her life was and how she didn't need anyone's help. The conversation escalated, causing tension among family members as they tried to mediate. My partner expressed frustration at how the situation was affecting our relationship. We decided to take a break from visiting my mom to focus on our own well-being. A few days later, she called me in a panic, claiming someone was at her apartment demanding money. I rushed over to find her in tears, saying she had been threatened. I called the building manager, who confirmed that she hadn't paid rent in a few months. He offered to help, but she refused assistance, insisting she would figure it out alone. A family meeting was arranged to discuss her situation, but she didn't show up. I later learned from my sister that our mom had been evicted from her apartment. She moved in with my sister temporarily, but she refused to follow any house rules. My sister mentioned that my mom was still trying to take out loans to cover her expenses. I decided to cut financial ties entirely with my mom to avoid further stress. She lashed out, claiming she had always been the one supporting the family, and now no one cared. Edit. My mom later reached out, asking for help with her new rent. I explained my decision to stop lending her money. She reacted harshly, but eventually stopped asking. She's staying with my sister. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.